What if I told you there was a civilization that lasted longer than the entire history of modern Europe? A land where gods walked among men. Kings were buried in golden tombs, and pyramids reached for the heavens, built without cranes or machines. This is the story of ancient Egypt. Introduction to the Nile and unification. Let's start at the very beginning. Before pyramids, before mummies, before hieroglyphs, there was the Nile. Thousands of years ago, ancient peoples settled along this great river. Why? Because the Nile flooded like clockwork every year, making the land incredibly fertile, perfect for farming in the middle of a desert. Over time, these small communities grew into two distinct regions: Upper Egypt in the south and Lower Egypt in the north. Then, around 3100 BCE, a powerful leader named Narmer, also known as Menes, unified both regions. He became the first pharaoh of a united Egypt, wearing a double crown to symbolize his rule over both lands. This moment marks the beginning of Egypt's 3,000-year journey through history. The Old Kingdom, Age of the Pyramids. Fast forward a few centuries to the Old Kingdom, starting around 2700 BCE. This was Egypt's first golden age, a time of stability, wealth, and incredible innovation. It's also when they started building pyramids. The earliest pyramid was built by Imhotep, the high priest and architect of Pharaoh Djoser. It wasn't the smooth-sided pyramid we know today. It was a step pyramid built layer by layer, and it still stands at Saqqara. But the most famous pyramids are in Giza. The Great Pyramid, built for Pharaoh Khufu, is a true marvel. Over 2 million limestone blocks, each weighing several tons, are stacked with insane precision, and no one's entirely sure how they did it. This was also when pharaohs were seen as living gods, and the entire society was built to support them. Farmers, craftsmen, architects, everyone had a role in building the glory of the pharaoh. But after a few centuries, things started to fall apart. Famine, weak leadership, and power struggles between local governors led to the collapse of central authority. Egypt entered its first major crisis. The first intermediate period, chaos and division. The time that followed, known as the First Intermediate Period, was kind of like Egypt's version of a civil war. Different rulers claimed power in different regions. There was no unity, and the country fractured into smaller kingdoms. But Egypt, as always, bounced back. The Middle Kingdom, rebirth and reform. Around 2050 BCE, a powerful family from Thebes reunited the country and launched the Middle Kingdom. This era wasn't as flashy as the Old Kingdom, no massive pyramids, but it was efficient. Pharaohs focused more on governing, expanding trade, and building public projects like irrigation systems to control the Nile floods. Art and literature flourished, and Egypt became more connected with its neighbors. Still, trouble was brewing. Egypt was becoming vulnerable to outsiders. In the north, a foreign group known as the Hyksos took control of the Delta region. They brought new technologies like the horse-drawn chariot, which the Egyptians had never seen. The Hyksos ruled for about 100 years, but the Egyptians weren't going to take that lying down. The new kingdom, Egypt's empire. Around 1550 BCE, Egypt fought back. A warrior pharaoh named Amos. I kicked the Hyksos out and started the new kingdom, the most powerful and prosperous era in Egyptian history. Egypt became a true empire, expanding its borders deeper into Africa and the Middle East. The pharaohs weren't just kings anymore. They were warrior gods, commanding massive armies and building monuments that still stand today. This era gave us some of Egypt's most iconic rulers. There was Hatshepsut, one of the few female pharaohs. She ruled for over 20 years, dressed like a king, and built the breathtaking temple at Deir el-Bahari. Then came Thutmose III, a military genius who led 17 successful campaigns and expanded Egypt's reach farther than ever before. But perhaps the most controversial ruler was Akhenaten. He tried to replace Egypt's entire religion with the worship of a single god, Aten, the sun disk. He even moved the capital to a brand new city, Amarna. His rule caused a major shakeup. And after his death, everything he built was quickly erased. Then came Tutankhamun, the boy king who restored the old ways. While his reign was short and not particularly impactful, his tomb, discovered untouched in 1922, became one of the greatest archaeological finds in history. And finally, Ramses II, also known as Ramses the Great. He ruled for 66 years, signed the world's first known peace treaty after the Battle of Kadesh, and built temples, statues, and cities all over Egypt. He was Egypt's last great pharaoh. After Ramses, things slowly went downhill. The decline, foreign rule, and the end of empire. Egypt's power faded. Successive pharaohs couldn't hold the empire together. The treasury drained. Foreign powers invaded. Over the next few centuries, Egypt was ruled by Libyans, Nubians, Assyrians, and Persians. Each brought their own influence, but slowly chipped away at Egypt's identity. Then, in 332 BCE, a new conqueror arrived, Alexander the Great. He took Egypt without a fight and was hailed as a liberator. After his death, his general Ptolemy took over and established the Ptolemaic dynasty, a line of Greek-speaking rulers who adopted many Egyptian traditions while blending them with Hellenistic culture. The last ruler of this line? Cleopatra V. She was clever, charismatic, and politically shrewd. She spoke Egyptian, rare for her dynasty, and tried desperately to keep Egypt independent by aligning with powerful Roman leaders like Julius Caesar and later Mark Antony. But after their defeat by Octavian, the future Emperor Augustus, Cleopatra took her own life. And in 30 BCE, Egypt officially became a Roman province. The age of the pharaohs was over. Legacy: why ancient Egypt still matters. And yet, thousands of years later, Egypt's legacy is everywhere. Its monuments still stand: the Great Pyramid, the Sphinx, the temples of Karnak and Luxor. Its writing system, hieroglyphs, inspired generations of linguists, and finally got cracked by the Rosetta Stone in the 1800s. Its mythology, with gods like Ra, Osiris, and Anubis, still fuels movies, books, and games. And its achievements in medicine, astronomy, and architecture were centuries ahead of their time. Ancient Egypt wasn't just a chapter in history, it was a civilization that shaped the world. It reminds us what humans are capable of, even without machines, electricity, or the internet. And maybe that's why we're still so fascinated by it.